In 1968, 12 young men at UP Diliman started a new fraternity. They named it Kappa Epsilon. Legend has it that the letters KE stood for Kamala. Later on, it would evolve to mean knowledge and enlightenment. From Diliman, the first community chapter was formed in Carmel Subdivision, Quezon City. And from Carmel chapter was born the first batch of school chapters. Meanwhile, in Diliman, the Broads created a ladies' auxiliary called KE Aphrodites, which would later be called Theta Epsilon Sorority in 1973. UE also created its ladies' auxiliary in 1972 and simply called it Kappa Epsilon Sorority. UP Manila also had one and called it Kappa Epsilon Ladies Circle. In the mid-70s, Broads from Diliman began forming community chapters. And then, in 1974, a life-changing event shook the Diliman Mother Chapter. 54 resident Broads were incarcerated at Camp Panopio in the aftermath of a rumble. Slapped with a one-semester suspension, some Broads decided to move to other schools. This started the second wave of chapter expansions into other schools and campuses in the mid-70s. At about the same time, community chapters were being formed from other school chapters. The expansion continued in the 80s. And then, in 1988, a group of alumni Broads from UP decided it was time to harness the resources and influence of KE alumni. The UP Kappa Epsilon Alumni Association Incorporated was formally established.
By 1988, or 20 years after the establishment of the fraternity, the Broads felt that it was time to organize formally the Kappa Epsilon Alumni Association. By then, there were Broads who were already holding positions of responsibility and were doing good in their respective careers and in their respective organizations. We also felt that it was time to organize the Alumni Association to address the needs then prevailing at the UP Diliman campus insofar as recruitment of Broads was concerned.
In the US, where some of the founders were now residing, UP alumni Broads formed their own alumni association in 1995. They were later joined by Broads from other chapters, now based in the US. Aside from organizing their own social events, Kiana would raise funds to support projects of their counterpart in the Philippines. UE would form its own alumni association in 2003 to harness its growing base of alumni to support their own socio-civic projects. A year later, the KE Alumni Council, with representatives from existing alumni associations and school chapters, was formed to coordinate KE-wide projects and activities. Other school chapters created their own alumni associations later. In the 90s, more community chapters were established. At the turn of the century, we saw an explosive growth in the establishment of new chapters, especially in the North. And starting 2010, chapters were established all across Nueva Ecija. Meanwhile, as Broads migrate and move to distant shores, chapters are being established in other countries. 50 years after 12 young men first met in Diliman to start a new fraternity, Kappa Epsilon has extended its reach throughout the nation and across the globe. With 32 school chapters, 40 community chapters, 12 international chapters, Kappa Epsilon at 50, united, infinite.